Once there was a king who died, and there was no successor to the king. Everybody was worried. They wanted royal blood. And so they went to the old grandmother of the king and asked her, "Can you help? There's no royal blood." She said, "There was once the grandson, another grandson of the king's grandfather, and he had a nephew somewhere I recently met. He was not doing too well." She gave them a tip, and they went searching for the royal blood. They found finally this very far distant relative of the king living as a beggar near the post office. And then they went and saluted to this beggar and said, "You are royal blood, and you must come and you must take over the kingdom because you have to be king." And so this beggar was taken and cleaned and tutored and coached to be king. It took several months before he learned, because after all he was a beggar. But after a few years, he started ruling the kingdom. After several years, one day, he just opened a cupboard and the old beggar's dress fell out. And he remembered, "Oh, I was a beggar, and now I'm the royal king." He told the minister, "I want to go back and see how things are there near the post office." And so, next morning, before sunrise, he was there in his beggar's clothes at the post office. People were surprised. "Oh, here comes the old beggar. We thought you were dead. Where did you come from?" And with the little beggar's can and a stick in his hand, he went down collecting pennies from door to door. And then at the end of the day, he was done with it. He had told the minister that after sunset, he wants to come back to the kingdom. In the evening, he jumped back into the carriage and was back in the kingdom. What do we learn from this beggar who was now a king? When he went back and was beggar for a day, for a moment, did he think that he had become a beggar? No. He knew very well that he was king. In fact, he had worn the beggar's clothes on top of the royal silk shirt, and the silk shirt was rubbing against his chest, and his thoughts were that of a king. But well, originally he was a beggar, wasn't he? So why did he not start thinking that he's become a beggar once again? Oh no! King, a royal blood king, once a king, can never ever think he's a beggar. What about us? What about us? For several years, we live as beggars, in misery, in pain, in sorrow. We suffer. Some of us live and die as beggars, but some of us are lucky. Some of us who are lucky, we realize that we have a royal blood. Not blood, but actually a soul. We have the royal soul within us, and we have that divine power, that divine energy. But what happens one day if our body, mind, ego pushes us back into being those old beings that we were? For a moment, would we ever think that we are the body and the mind? Never! Once we have realized that we are not the body and the mind, we are the soul, that realization is complete. But till we realize, we live like that beggar who never knew that he was a king, he was royal blood. It was after he was taken to the kingdom and made to understand, when he realized he was king, he could never ever go back to being a beggar. We must realize we have got that divine power inside, and once we realize, we will never ever go back into living a life of suffering. But first, we must realize the truth.